Welcome to NEPA Corner, brought to you by the National Environment and Planning Agency. We kick off the corner with NEPA's tour of primary schools as part of its National Junior Education Program. The first stop was at Almontown Primary on January 22nd, where Senior Public Education and Community Outreach Officer Ava Tomlinson spoke to enthusiastic students about the dangers of plastics.
Though it takes 400 years, we are continuing to put more, and it will not be going away. And that's what we do not want to happen, because we want generations to be able to enjoy planet Earth.
Shortly after leaving Almontown, the outreach team headed to Alvernia Prep, where the message of conservation and the prudent use of fossil fuels was communicated to the students by Ms. Tomlinson.
As much as we're just one small human being here on the island of Jamaica, and there are many other countries in the world which are bigger than us and make a greater impact on the impact on the environment, but each in our small corner can help with the conserving of energy and conserving of fossil fuels. And I know you know about fossil fuels, especially my grade 5 and my grade 6, because you have touched on that topic already, right? But here on our island of Jamaica, in order for us to generate electricity, for us to have these fans cooling us down today, we use what is called fossil fuel. And so when you go home, you can plug out the fan when you're not using it, plug out your cell phone when you're not charging it or your tablet, as well as you can encourage your family members to turn off the light.
The following day, the team headed to Rollington Town Primary, where the message of soil pollution took center stage.
Or sometimes, in some places too, you will have pesticides being thrown away on the ground. And when those pesticides get into the ground and poison the ground, or sometimes adults, we don't have the money to pay somebody to cut the yard, or we don't have the time to cut the yard, and we use something called Roundup, where you spray the yard. Anybody spray the yard at home? Okay. Okay, so in your community, you don't have a lot of land space, but in communities where people have more land space around their houses, they build up the house or they spray the ground to get rid of grass. And that sometimes poisons our soil, and you have soil pollution taking place.
The final day of the tour on Friday, January 24th, saw the NEPA team visiting two other primary schools, namely St. Francis Infant and Primary and the Clancarty Primary Schools. At the St. Francis Infant and Primary, more emphasis was placed on soil pollution and what must be done to combat it.
Soil pollution is where you have things that don't belong in a particular space. And so it may be a liquid substance, it may be a chemical substance, it may be toxic, but it does not belong in that space. And if you have too much of that thing in that space, sometimes it makes the space become a bit ill, sick, no longer good. And that happens to land when you put things like garbage, plastics, chemicals in the land, on the soil. Okay?
The school tour closed with a final stop at Clancarty Primary, where the issue of some of Jamaica's endangered species were discussed, with specific reference to the yellow snake, which is found only in Jamaica.
You find the species in Jamaica, it tends to live in our forested areas and our woodlands. It is a protected species, and there are some people who like to eat our snakes. As Jamaicans, we don't want anybody to kill or harm or hurt our snakes, because this belongs to our island of Jamaica. So if you go to the United States, you'll find other species of snakes, but you're not going to find this Jamaican boa snake, okay? You're not going to find this nanka. It has this beautiful, bright color. It's sometimes turned into black. Hold on, hold your thoughts. And so this is one of our protected species that live in our ecosystem. And so and it lives in thick forested areas and under the stone rocks. And human beings, we sometimes impact them negatively, because when we build our roadways, sometimes those are where you'll find their homes. And so when we're drilling in, sometimes you will find the snake, the little tiny ones coming out. And we had examples of those when we were expanding of our road networks. NEPA had to go in and teach persons how to live in an environment with them and rescue some of them, and they are not to be sold. Now, these species I'm telling you about, if you are caught with the skin, the meat, or any part of the species or the whole snake, you can be brought before a judge. And under the law, the judge is at liberty to have you been arrested for up to 12 months at hard labor in prison or be charged up to $100,000.
On the last day of the month of January, celebrated worldwide as World Wetlands Day, the NEPA team was in Port Royal at the Port Royal Marine Laboratory and also participated in a community outreach in the center of Port Royal. First, Janelle Irving, marine biologist at the Port Royal Marine Laboratory, took time to educate the children of Port Royal about mangroves.
And there are 4 types of mangroves in Jamaica. You want me to tell you about them? Okay, so there's one, and most of them are named after colors, so it's very easy to remember, okay? So first we have the red mangrove, then we have the black mangrove, then we have the white mangrove, and then just like the button on your shirt, we have a button mangrove. So what are the 4 types of mangroves again, guys? Can anybody remind me? Red mangrove, black mangrove, white mangrove, and button mangrove. Great job. So we know a mangrove forest has lots of different plants and animals. Look at this picture. Aren't there so many different animals and plants? Don't you think so? What kind of animals are you seeing on here? Starfish, crab, fish, birds, mangrove. We're seeing seahorse too, right? So here's some of these are kind of scary. So some of these animals, guys, you're going to get a chance to touch them today. Is anybody going to be brave and touch some of these animals? I think we're all going to be brave. And some of them, we're just going to look at them in the tank, okay? Some people are going to touch the starfish.
Shortly after the initial presentation, a boat tour took place towards mangrove areas in and around Port Royal, and while on board, another team member at the Marine Laboratory further explained the role of the lab in making sure that there is a constant supply of mangroves in the Port Royal area.
We have a mangrove nursery at the lab. I don't know if anybody got a chance to see. We have a nursery that has the capacity to hold 10,000 seedlings. So we have somebody on staff whose main duty is to deal with the mangrove nursery. So they'll come out, they collect the seedlings from the wild, because in some of these areas when the seedlings drop, they're not dropping into the ground and beginning to grow. They just drop on top of garbage. If they manage to find dirt and become established, a large item like a refrigerator can easily come and bulldoze that over. So we collect the seedlings and it basically provides like a head start, and then we come through and we do different rehabilitation projects. For Refuge Key specifically, we've always wanted to do some sort of rehabilitation at Refuge Key, but it is very costly.
On March 19, the NEPA team, in an effort to show to the media how they seek to protect endangered species, conducted a tour of the Holland Bay Crocodile Sanctuary. The very educational tour saw the media getting a first-hand view of how these reptiles are protected and sought to help them understand their importance to the ecosystem of the country. Head of the Holland Bay Crocodile Facility, Lawrence Enriquez, explained that while these animals can be aggressive, they are more interested in being left alone.
If you have people who are interested in conservation, crocodiles, wetlands, etc., want to come to the facility, you don't want an animal that is exposed to them without fencing and the rest of it, that has a, should I say, a not too nice a disposition. Because you do have crocodiles that do have, little idiosyncrasies which you don't want people to be fearful of them. So we have one here that basically sort of tends to relax people. But that doesn't mean that the crocodile is an animal that you can just go up and pat like a dog or a cat. You can't do that. You might end up in a big problem. But at the same time, it shows that these animals, they really are pretty good natured for the most part. They're not out to hurt us. So, it's respect and also understanding the behavior of the animal and how you interact with it, which is basically don't go right into their face, just allow them their space, and they're cool, very cool. But if you go in and you molest them and the rest of it, the chances are you're going to end up with something you don't want, like a mangled arm or leg. You really don't want it. And then the animal gets the blame, and it's not the animal's fault. It's not aggressive behavior, it's defensive behavior.
Joey Brown, curator at Hope Zoo, explained the partnership between the Holland Bay facility and Hope Zoo and how that close working relationship ensures that endangered species are rescued and preserved.
We're a nonprofit charitable organization. We act as twofold. We act as a zoo and one of the main wildlife rescue centers, kind of in Jamaica, working closely with NEPA. So unlike here, that takes in just the crocs. We take in all native protected species: birds, parrots, owls, snakes, and then crocodiles. So around the Kingston St. Andrew area, we help when there are crocodile issues. We'll go help with rescues and relocations. And then as a last resort, we will sometimes bring crocs back to the zoo if they are sick or ill and we need to kind of rehab them and get them proper vet treatment. We can fix up, improve their health and then work at relocating or releasing them back into the wild.
Treya Picking, a crocodile enthusiast and founder of the Jam Croc Initiative, explained the importance of the Holland Bay facility to the nation.
This facility plays a very, very important role in research, crocodile monitoring, outreach, and also training with the Head Start program. One of the big projects that NEPA took part, well, one of the big projects that NEPA spearheaded, where I was the project lead, was the first island-wide crocodile survey in Jamaica, where we gained a lot of information on the crocodile status and the habitat availability around the island. And Lawrence was one of our key collaborators within the parish of St. Thomas. So we did a lot of surveys, just kind of collecting data on the parish, in which we saw that the crocodile population is quite threatened in this area, and a facility like this is even more important in that case.
On March 25th, the NEPA team embarked on another interesting and fun-filled day across the corporate area. Firstly, a number of schools were invited to Alhambra Inn to participate in an environmental workshop, which saw a number of schools being supported to commence their environmental club. However, before that, they toured the Barnes Gully to see firsthand the tremendous negative impact that lack of proper garbage disposal is having in the downtown area of Kingston.
If you look ahead, look on this ahead, you will see an interceptor barrier. Everybody is seeing it? All right, that's called the interceptor barrier. And you have any idea what that is placed there for? Right, to keep the garbage in. And just take a view of everything that you're seeing. Can you name some of the stuff that you're seeing? Sticks, plastic bottles. Television down there. Right, and is that a good look? Is that a good smell? It's not a good smell. No. So what are some of the things that we can do to help to save the environment? Dispose our garbage properly.
Fortunately, however, there is a light at the end of the tunnel as a project which aims to clean up Kingston Harbour is in full swing. At that recycling facility, a synopsis of what is done on a daily basis was explained to the students.
So, we've also, as you can see, done a beautiful mural in here. And this is basically to show what we want the Kingston Harbour to look like. We want the Kingston Harbour to look healthy. We want the animals to be healthy. And we want it to be clean. So, what are some animals you guys are seeing?
Jellyfish there.
Dolphins.
Ray.
Can anybody tell me
Turtles back there.
what tree that is?
It looks like a mangrove.
Yes, that is a mangrove tree. Give it some.
Respect it.
So the mangroves in the Kingston Harbour, we have an extensive mangrove forest, and it is under threat from the garbage that comes out of our gully systems. So, for instance, there is a little isle called Refuge Key that is solely and wholly held together by the mangrove forest. And it, for many years, has been depleting because of the garbage that's flowing over to the Port Royal area from our gully systems. What the garbage does is that it will break mangrove seedlings as they're trying to grow. It will also block water channels. So mangroves need water, specifically a nice flow of water to survive. For an area like mangrove, like Refuge Key, that's an isle, the center of the isle, if the garbage blocks these water channels, it'll start to die out. And that's what we've been seeing happening with Refuge Key over time. So last year, the project had launched an initiative called the Great Mangrove Cleanup, where we partnered with entities, private sector entities, to do cleanups of mangrove areas within the Kingston Harbor. And that is kind of the logic behind our campaign.
After touring the Barnes Gully and the recycling facility, the students went back to Alhambra Inn, where they were further educated on what is expected of them as the newest environmental ambassadors. Chief Executive Officer of the National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA, Leonard Francis, explained his vision for the students.
We want to partner with you and to encourage you in every way to support our efforts to protect our environment for the future and for our children's future. I hope every person here today, including those who are serving us, will come on board with us. And let me tell you something I can do quickly. I know I've been on for long, but I have to let you know because I probably won't see you again for now. We have taken the opportunity to go out and speak to certain influential persons and say, listen, we want to participate in the school environment program. And we have been talking to the UN about it, and they are encouraging us that every single student here, there's a student program at United Nations, a future leader program. You need to hook into that.
Our final stop was at the agency's birthday celebrations. On April 1, the agency celebrated its 24th birthday, and Chief Executive Officer of NEPA, Leonard Francis, lauded the agency's work in transforming the country.
When you look on what our programs have done in protection and conservation, in terms of coral reefs, mangrove, forested areas, and protecting these valuable resources, that I can tell you, our resources here, when properly researched, it's not only about flood control, it's only about medicine, it's not only about leisure, it's not only about the fact that we have protected and conserved and preserved our endemic species. What it has done is allow us as Jamaicans to make Jamaica a wonderful and perfect place to live, marry, do business, and everything else.
Acting chair of the agency, Christopher Wimstone, heaped high praises on the agency for its outstanding work despite the odds.
After 24 years, a lot of the issues in the merger of the three different entities would have hopefully been worked out and harmonized. I was around in 2001 when the merger was being discussed. I served on the board in 2010 in the early days of the merger. And as a practitioner in the industry, I would have felt the impacts of the merger, being an architect in the construction industry. I think you guys have done very well. There was a lot of naysayers who thought that it couldn't be done and shouldn't be done. Still are those, but you guys genuinely continue to prove them wrong.
That's it for NEPA Corner. Join us next time for another interesting program.